Hey everyone, I'm Kyle Yates of the FantasyPros Football Podcast. Thanks for joining us. As always, you can find our brand new content every week at youtube.com/fantasypros, as well as on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow while you're there. Let's dive right in because today I'm continuing our video series looking at stashes and streamers for Week 11. Let's get started by taking a look at 5 players you can stash heading into Week 11. Number 5, SONY MICHEL, running back, New England Patriots. MICHEL is apparently close to returning to the active roster here shortly. While Damien Harris has been performing extremely well, there's no telling what the Patriots will do with their running back situation. This stash is only for fantasy rosters that desperately need a running back option, due to the fact that it's unlikely MICHEL comes back and is given the majority of the touches in this backfield. But he's worth stashing in the small percentage chance that it happens. Number 4, JAMEIS Winston, quarterback, New Orleans Saints. While there's always the possibility that Winston throws a couple of picks any given game, we've all seen him do great things for fantasy football when he's been on the field. In this Saints offense that has a great surrounding cast, plus a great matchup this week against Atlanta, Winston has the possibility to turn into a top-tier fantasy quarterback as long as Breeze is sidelined. Winston's a fantastic stash heading into this weekend's games. Number 3, Jordan Wilkins, running back, Indianapolis Colts. Anyone who watches football can tell you that this backfield is a mess. The coaching staff refuses to utilize Jonathan Taylor properly, and it looks like he might be playing behind Wilkins here. This is a great matchup this week against the Packers' run defense, and Wilkins has an excellent chance of finding the end zone. For fantasy managers that need a running back, Wilkins is a fine stash option in the event that we see him start to fully take over this backfield. It might not happen, and this could remain a complete mess of a situation, but it's worth a shot. Number 2, JAKEEM Grant, wide receiver, Miami Dolphins. Picking up someone like JAKEEM Grant might not feel especially great, but if he puts together another performance like the one he did last week, it's going to be difficult to get him on your roster with the waiver wire rush. With Preston Williams on IR, Grant stepped into an expanded role here last weekend and delivered with a solid fantasy performance. You might not be able to play Grant this week, but he's worth picking up now to stash in the event that he has another big game. Number 1, KJ HAMLER, wide receiver, Denver Broncos. Did you know that HAMLER has back-to-back games of 10 targets? While we can have a greater conversation of what those targets mean coming from Drew Lock, HAMLER's seeing the volume that fantasy managers need right now in their lineups. Even with the solid performances though, HAMLER's only 4% rostered in Yahoo leagues. It might be hard to trust HAMLER right now, but if he has another game of 8+ targets in Week 11, it's going to be hard to ignore him for fantasy. Let's now look at 5 players that you can add now to stream in Week 12. Number 5, Baker Mayfield, quarterback, Cleveland Browns. Mayfield is certainly hard to trust right now, with the way that this offense runs, pun intended, through Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. However, for fantasy managers that are playing the streaming quarterback game, Mayfield has a fantastic matchup against the Jaguars in Week 12. Mayfield might not have enough passing volume to be viewed as a top 12 lock at the position, but he's certainly on the streaming radar. Number 4, Washington, DST. Washington gets to take on the Dallas Cowboys offense in Week 12. While the Cowboys might be more improved with Andy Dalton behind center, that doesn't mean they're exactly going to be a top 15 offense in the NFL. Washington should be able to create pressure on Dalton all game long, and they could easily return top 12 value. Number 3, Daniel Jones, quarterback, New York Giants. I said all offseason that based on the Giants' schedule, I wouldn't be recommending Daniel Jones as a streamer until Week 12. Well, here we are. Jones has put 2 pretty solid performances together here in recent weeks, and he gets a great matchup against the Bengals in Week 12. With his rushing upside plus the matchup, Jones could push for a top 12 finish on the week. Number 2, Dalton Schultz, tight end, Dallas Cowboys. Schultz's production has drastically fallen off here recently with the quarterback changes, but he has a great matchup in Week 12 against the Washington defense. While Washington has been very effective at shutting down most position groups, they struggled against tight ends this season. There aren't many tight end streaming options right now for Week 12, but Schultz is the best of the group. Number 1, Derek Carr, quarterback, Las Vegas Raiders. Just like Baker Mayfield, Carr hasn't been needed much with the running game performing so well recently. However, it's impossible to ignore Carr's matchup in Week 12 against the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons' defense has been decimated through the air, but they've actually been pretty stout against the run. This means that Carr should be in line for a huge day, and he's a perfect streaming option for Week 12. Looking for useful content, fantasy relevant information, and the data that can help your team win? Then make sure to subscribe to the FantasyPros YouTube channel. And while you're at it, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at FantasyPros so we can help you dominate your league all season long.